All right, so I only have half an hour to go through all this, so I'm basically going to run through a high level. Some of this is going to get a little technical. I don't pretend to be an expert, especially in the Google Analytics stuff, but my goal is really to just give you some ideas on how to enhance your hub site, kind of, again, take it to the next level. So I'm going to go through, instead of using sort of the built-in hub tools, any of you that have a hub site are probably familiar with the gallery tool where you can embed content. We sort of took a different approach and actually used an Experience Builder app as our app gallery and then embedded that in our hub site. I'm going to touch on a little bit of our open data site and how that's laid out and organized and how we use hosted data in AGO for our open data. And then the big one is tracking visitors with Google Analytics 4. That's Google's new tracking system. It's got a little bit of a learning curve. I had to watch a lot of YouTube videos on terminology and at least how to get the basics set up. Again, my goal here today is to at least get you started if that's something that you want to migrate to their new system. And then just to wrap up, if I've got time, kind of a neat little thing that I was able to do as well is we have a community analyst license, so I was able to create some interactive infographic dashboards with some census information for our communities as well. So as I mentioned, there's a few different ways to get an app gallery out on your hub site. If you do some Google search, and Esri's got quite a few blogs out there on how to add content, maps, apps, that kind of stuff. Some of those blog posts are pretty detailed. They walk you through those steps of getting the basics out there. So again, for the sake of time, I was originally going to go kind of walk through those steps, but given I have a half an hour, I'm just going to jump right into what we did. So when I first started at Sheboygan, that's what I did. Is I just used a built-in gallery and kind of got some basic stuff out there. But after a while, I thought, I kind of really want to give this some, personal flair and kind of give it a little unique perspective from Sheboygan County. So I used Experience Builder to then create an app gallery. And what's nice with Experience Builder is you can use the card widget, and you can actually customize all sorts of things with these cards. You can customize the text, the colors, the buttons. They have hover effects, so you can get really fancy with it. But you build that with Experience Builder, and then you just embed that into your hub site. So I've got kind of a mix of slides and demo here, so we're going to be jumping between the two. All right, you can see that. So this is just a copy of that app that I made just for demo purposes, but again, over on the widget side, you can use their card widget and just drag and drop. So I just started with a fresh, empty layout for Experience Builder. I think I added some rows, and then you just drag and drop that card over. And again, you can go for each card, you can go over to the style, you can customize maybe. It's always a fun thing with live demos, right? So let's do this. Let's see what that is, right? So you can customize the background, the colors, the text. You can go in. With these cards, Esri has a couple different layouts or templates that you can choose from, so different size thumbnails, different areas where the text is. I just chose sort of a default template and kind of customize it. The buttons, you can go and change the color of those, right? So you can kind of, what we did is actually use the colors from our county website and kind of mirrored that here to give it sort of that flow. So if somebody's on the county site and then they go to our hub site, it has that same sort of color template. They've got hover effects, so like on the button, if somebody, you can change the colors there. So if somebody hovers over the button, it changes color. The card also has a hover effect, so if somebody hovers over that card, it like flips, and you can have a different thumbnail, give it a different look. So the nice thing with Experience Builder is it does allow a lot of that kind of customization. And then what I did is I just copy and pasted each card, created my own thumbnail for each app, and put that into that card, and then just in that Explore button, just put the link to your app. So you're kind of custom building it. So it's a little time intensive, takes some time to go through and do that, but it's kind of a neat way to do it. And then, of course, if you have changes to your apps, you just go in here and change the link. If you want to highlight certain apps and put those at the top, you can just go and, again, drag and drop these cards and kind of change the layout if you want. And I sort of got a little test page here on my hub site. So, and then just on your hub site, you just go embed application. And we're going to go, if I can spell. No, I don't want to open it, Esri. There we go. And then it just embeds your Experience Builder app in there. So now your app gallery is embedded into your hub site. So then when you need to make changes to your app gallery, you go to your Experience Builder app. We have a question? Questions already. All right.
Have you been able to achieve any type of dynamic additions to your Experience Builder app based on like tags? Or do you do everything manually for that addition?
I do everything manually just because I'm sort of an OCD kind of person, so I like to do everything myself. I have not explored the dynamic stuff yet. I know with the hub site they have that dynamic content, so if things change or your group changes or something, it does update, but I sort of like doing this manually. Yep. All right, so again, that was a really quick Experience Builder app gallery. So jumping over to open data. So this is just a snapshot of our open data site. Again, I kind of take an interesting approach to this. One of the things I like to do is in the text, I have a change log. So if I add data or change data or make some sort of adjustments, I put that on there so that as people come to our open data site, they know what's new and what's changed, right? So that's kind of nice to do. So I know with open data, I've seen quite a lot of different examples of that. I know a lot of people use their enterprise setup, right? So they have their enterprise database and their portal, and then that's tied into their open data. So then if you make database changes, with your data, that's automatically reflected in your open data. We had somewhat of that set up when I first came to Sheboygan, but it's a lot to kind of manage. So what I opted to do is just put everything in Arc Online and use hosted data. Esri always enhances their hosted stuff first before they come to enterprise, right? So that's just kind of a choice we made. If you go that route, just remember, right, everything you upload uses credits. So right now we have about 400 gigs of file storage. So this is aerial imagery, SID files, and all those types of things. Our LiDAR, so we've got a zip file with a bunch of LiDAR data. Just recently I uploaded a bunch of scene layer packages with point clouds and things like that. So that's all on our hub site for people to download and access and use. One of the benefits of putting it in Arc Online is, of course, the resources and storage and everything is off-site. We're paying for credits, but once I upload it, I don't have to sit and worry about SQL maintenance and our server went down and this isn't available. I just put it in Arc Online and it's, for the most part, works all the time. I also kind of can control when the data is updated, right? So if you have your open data tied in your enterprise database and you're making changes, some people like that near real-time open data stuff. I kind of like being able to know when I updated my data. As far as the categories with our open data, again, I sort of took a unique approach. So because each data set is updated or is in AGO separately, there's a couple different ways you can have people search, those nice little tags and keywords that Esri has you put in all your items when you upload them. So I know some hub sites I've gone to, you type in imagery and you get all their stuff in their AGO account that's tagged with imagery. You kind of have to sort through things and everything. So what I've done is with each data set, I've given it a very unique tag. So I've prefaced that tag with OD for open data. So now if somebody clicks on that category, only those data sets with that OD tag show up in the search. So that makes it a little bit cleaner so people don't have to be scrolling through and looking for a certain data set. My open data is just tagged with OD whatever, and then that category, and that makes it a little bit easier. And then those common data sets, right now I'm updating those quarterly. So our parcels and addressing and things like that, I just manually update that. At some point, I'm going to look at getting some sort of a script set up to push that out maybe weekly or something. But for now, it kind of works. So, is there a question?
I guess I didn't follow it. So you have open data and you have non-open data, but they're both exposed and searchable and discoverable? In our hub, in our open spatial data portal, we only have open data, so I'm a little confused. Am I missing something?
No, on our site, just our open data is on our hub. So if you go explore or search our hub site, it's just searching our open data. But I've been on other, county or city websites from around the country where if you type in a search, it's bringing up a lot of stuff. So, maybe those people have something set up a little bit differently, but I've been on those hub sites where you kind of have to sort through data.
Because some of it you can see, but you can't actually view or download?
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
It shows up in the search, but it's not part of their open data. So again,
okay.
I don't know how those people have done that, but I wanted to make it nice and clean and organized. So, yep. So let me jump back out here. So I just wanted to show quick sort of how I've got that set up. So if somebody comes here and they're looking for our parcel data, and they click on tax parcels, you can see that tag, I've got OD tax records, so then that just brings up the tax parcels, and then control points is the other data set we have. So again, just nice and clean and simple. Same thing for imagery. So I've got that specific tag. The imagery, we've got a lot of different stuff out there. Our past ortho photos, things like that. So, but again, kind of keeps it organized, more so for me, just so I know where things are and how they are out there. All right, so now the fun part. So Google Analytics. How many of you used Google Analytics before? Okay, quite a few here. All right. So again, I know the basics. I know enough to be dangerous. When they switched over to the new from the Universal Analytics to this new GA4, I tried migrating our property, and things got messed up, and I ended up deleting it and starting over. But if you're going to get into this, there's a lot of, with the Google Analytics, there's a lot of terminology. Again, I had to sort of read documentation. YouTube was my friend setting all this up. So the big thing with the GA4 is there's a property and then there's data streams. So your property represents an app or a website. Again, this is according to Google. So then a data stream is an app or a website that provides data. That's clear as mud. I'm going, I don't know how this works. So from what I figured out, the example Google uses, if you're a developer and you have an app, right, and you put that out on iOS App Store and Android App Store and Windows, your app would be your property, but then your data stream would be each of those app stores. So if you had an app out there, you could track how many people are downloading your app in each different store and all that kind of stuff. From the Esri standpoint, if you want to just track visitors to your hub site or your instant app or something like that, data streams kind of confuse things. So what I've kind of figured out is just keep it one-to-one. So you can have, with a free Google account, you can have a ton of properties. So it's not really an issue of running into a limitation. So for each hub site or instant app you want to track, just create a new property for it. It keeps it clean and organized. So once you have your account in Google Analytics, you create a new property. So that would be, in this case, the URL to your hub site. And just like the old system, once you create that, it's going to give you a code. You go back into your hub site, into the settings. You put that code into the GA4 measurement ID spot, and you hit save. Optionally, you can add a consent notice, right? Pretty much every website you go to now, they have that little box pop up that you have to click accept or not accept. So I just came up with some real simple language that, hey, Sheboygan County may be using this to track user behavior. No personal, information is being collected. And then once you do that, it can take a few days for that to take effect and for tracking to actually start working, but eventually you'll start seeing traffic and hits. So once you get that working, it's, again, easy to get lost in that GA4 terminology. There's views and sessions and events, and then you have an audience. Something new in this are purchasers versus non-purchasers. As I've learned, since we don't have a online store and we're not selling stuff, we don't have people buying and not buying. So basically, all traffic to our hub site is a non-purchaser. But once you get in there, that kind of stuff, you're sorting through all that going, I don't know what half this stuff is. So again, it took a little while for me to figure out what all these things were and how to organize them. So don't be scared by the terminology. A lot of it doesn't really apply if you're just tracking in Esri hub site. Once you have your hub or your analytics property set up, you can customize your home page with a bunch of different cards and have different things show up, which is kind of nice. But once I got that going, I thought, okay, great, I can track how many hits I got every day. I'd like to know a little bit more, where people are going, what they're clicking. So again, that gets back into the views and sessions and events and digging through all that terminology. So GA4 has this new thing called explorations. So that was another thing I kind of had to go read up on and figure out. But you can sort of customize what you track with what they call as all these different insights. So this is where it gets a little technical. And again, I know the basics and I know enough to get this working. You have segments. In our case, this is like our audience. So again, with the Esri stuff, it's non-purchasers. You have dimensions, which are attributes that tell you about your audience. Some of the things I read up on are, has things like gender. I don't know how Google knows what gender you are when you're using your phone, but that is Google. So that stuff I wasn't worried about. Again, I just want to know. My big thing was what pages people are hitting and where people are coming from, right? Their location. That's kind of what I'm interested in. And then you have different metrics. So I'm going to jump again out here. Go to my analytics site. So one of the kind of neat things I like with the new format is they have this sort of real-time tracking. So this is users to your site in the last 30 minutes. So if we click that view real-time, now again, this is all IP-based. So if in our case, we're in Sheboygan, our IP is Sheboygan, but if you're on your cell phone, it might be Verizon going through Chicago, so you come up as being from Chicago, right? So you kind of have to keep that in mind, but it looks like we got a hit from Puerto Rico in the last half an hour. That's interesting. So in our case, so we have a lot of people in Sheboygan County that use our public apps, right? Local units of government. We have our POUTS programs. A lot of septic tank pumpers and stuff will use our apps. So a lot of our hits come from Sheboygan County area. But it's kind of neat sometimes. I just log in the morning and check to see where hits are coming from. We get stuff from DC and all over the place, but it is kind of neat to see that geolocation of where our visitors are coming from. And again, you can kind of customize your page here. So the big one is the Explorer that I mentioned. So again, in addition to the traffic and where people are coming from, I wanted to know what they were clicking on. So again, digging through this explorations and playing around with the format and getting things set up, I kind of got this figured out. So the page views is, again, that's what I'm after. So in the last week, we've had 320 visitors to our apps page. So again, everyone's going to our hub site to go look at all of our public apps. There were 59 hits on our open data site, land records, etc. And then through the Esri stuff, so these are those tags that I set up for our open data. So I can see how many people clicked tax records. There were 12 people in the last week that went to our tax parcel open data category, obviously looking to download or access parcels. So I can track that. Once you get your open data set up, Esri's, of course, big on IDs. So when you look at this, that ID, when you first look at it, doesn't mean anything, but you can go back and see what data set that was. That's the ARC Online item ID or something like that. So in this case, I think that's our parcels. So that means 6 people in the last week, opened our tax parcel layer in our open data. So whether they added it to a map or what have you, they accessed that. So that's how that Explorer kind of works, is you can really dig through where people are going on your hub site. And I still have a lot to learn on that. Again, I'm not an expert, but yep.
Your analytics, does your IDT department look at that to see things like that one from Puerto Rico being hit? Do they look at what is coming in to prevent people trying to use this as an avenue to get into your other parts of your system?
No, I mean, I haven't told them. I probably could, but I know our IT department, we're like NORAD. We're locked down very tight. And that's part of why I put everything on AGO, right? So our open data is actually on AGO, not in our network. So if somebody from Puerto Rico is hitting my tax parcel data in AGO, that's fine. Have at it. Right, so I mean, we've gotten, hits from, India and stuff like that. So whether they're looking for data or they're trying to figure out a way to hack in the Sheboygan County system, it's interesting, but yeah, I know our IT has, traffic filtered out and stuff pretty good. So I probably should share this with them just, to be nice. But
Do you pay for a subscription or anything for Google Analytics, or is it free?
No, so at Sheboygan County, all of our email and stuff's through Google, so I have a Google account. But at my previous job with the Google Analytics, I just used the free Google account. And Google gives you, again, you can have like 100 properties and things like that with a free account. So yeah, you can do that with a free account. You don't really need to pay for anything for this kind of basic stuff. I know Google has subscriptions for analytics, but that's more for, corporate and business and stuff like that. So. All right, and then just to wrap up, so demographics, this was kind of an interesting idea I had. Once in a while we get calls from people, local municipalities writing a grant and they're looking up for census information or how many people we have in this area, and we got to pull up census blocks and all that. So that was kind of a neat thing to do. So to do this, you need either a business or community analyst license. So through AGO, we just have a web version. It's $100 per user per year, so a pretty reasonable cost to get one license. And then what Esri has is once you get all that set up, they have a bunch of templates that you can build dashboards with. And so what I did is I just took a couple of those templates and customize them. Again, I went through and changed colors to match our county website so that when people go there, it's all consistent and looks nice. There is some credit usage with this, so for every dashboard, once you get your template set, you can build it, right? So that goes through and pulls all your local data and creates the dashboard. So that's, every time you run that, that's 10 credits. So if I create 5 of them, that's 50 credits, right? So you gotta keep that in mind when you're doing this. And then technically, Esri charges credits for views. So in my case, I put this out on our public hub site. So for every 1,000 views a dashboard gets, it's 10 credits. Per my Google Analytics tracking, I figured out that that demographics page gets, I think, maybe 20 hits a week. So I really don't have to worry about the 1,000 views, 10 credits thing. It's probably a handful of credits throughout the year, so it's not too big of a deal. But what's really cool with this, obviously you have access to all of Esri's demographic stuff, right? Census, ACS, they've got economic things, healthcare, a lot of information you can put out there. So again, I'm just going to jump out and do a quick demo. Go back to my demographics. So what's really nice with this, so you load up all of your local geometry. So I just put in our county boundary and then our municipalities. And so one of the templates is just using the basic Census 2020 profile. So because this is an interactive dashboard, right, you can, or an infographic, a lot of this is interactive, so you can click on some of these things, get more information and get breakdowns. And because it's a dashboard and because I have all of our municipalities loaded in, so again, if the town of Scott wanted to get some basic demographics, they just come in here, choose town of Scott, and it filters all that demographic data in that dashboard to just that municipality. So they can get their basic population data, household size, et cetera. The product I use for this, either business analyst or community analyst. They're basically the same. They use the same data and everything, yep. So the other one is just an economic development profile, right? So that's sort of your labor force and all that kind of stuff. Again, they provide breakdowns, and you hover over something, there's a nice explanation. So again, our local units, as I've been showcasing this out to them, they kind of really like that. And then the third one, which I thought was kind of neat, I don't know how many people are using it. That's sort of my next on my list for GA4 is how to really track these types of things. But Esri had a template for community change, so you can kind of go see past ACS and censuses and see how your community's grown and things like that, housing, population, everything. So again, a couple really quick dashboards with economic and census data. They pick their community from the drop-down, get that information quickly. I know Census is always improving their website, but again, we usually get calls once in a while from people going, I just need to know how many people are in our community and this and that. So this is a nice tool for them. All right. So that was a lot of stuff. Again, give you a high overview of some of the things we've done with our hub site, what we've incorporated, hopefully give you some ideas on how to, again, take your hub site to the next level. So any other questions? I think I'm just good on time. So if not, thank you.